Wine and food are incredibly subjective things. A food or wine that I like, someone else might not enjoy nearly as much. And that, in and of itself, is the beauty of food and wine. The diversity of opinions and preferences that leads to a diversity of choice. But where does this diversity of opinions come from? Well, there's a lot that goes into it, from memories to the mouthfeel, but there's actually a large component that is the main taste or flavor of the food and beverage. Hey there, I'm Jacqueline for Vero, where we go around the world searching out wild and scarce small production wines and olive oils to bring to the US for wine lovers, businesses, and distributors alike. Of course, one of the things that we always note when we are tasting a wine is what are the flavors and tastes. So, what are tastes? Traditionally, we are taught there are 4 basic tastes: sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. You can easily picture the feeling of biting into something sugary, or a sour lemon, maybe a bitter radish, or a salty potato chip. Our taste buds, which cover our tongues, are responsible for sensing these tastes and the overall flavor experience. But we need to forget the old tongue map that we often saw in our school biology textbooks. We now understand that each taste bud can detect all 4 basic tastes, and the specific mix of chemicals in our food and drinks is what creates these tastes as they react with our taste buds and saliva as we eat and drink. It's also fascinating that everyone will experience these tastes differently. What tastes really sweet to you might not taste sweet to someone else, and the same goes for bitter, sour, and salty flavors. Our culture, what we've experienced, our habits, and what we like and dislike, so many things will influence how we perceive each taste. Now, there is a lot of talk about a 5th taste called umami. It can be a pleasant, savory flavor that's different from the others and comes from glutamate. It can often be described as rich, savory, meaty, or broth-like. It's not easily identifiable by itself, and it doesn't really have a distinct smell, but it can help to enhance the overall flavor and complexity of a food or wine. Great. Now we have an understanding of taste. So let's go over some practical wine examples and see how we can recognize certain tastes and eventual flavor components in wines. First up is sour. One tell of sour is acidity, which can seem very similar in the way it creates a puckering sensation that we can link together. Think like that puckering up after you suck on a lemon, or, as millennial me will date myself now, eating a warhead candy. Of course, while there is actually a whole category of sour beer that overlaps quite nicely with wine. In fact, we've written a whole article about that you can find on the Vero blog on verovino.com. But today, let's look at some wines that highlight a sour flavor, but in a good way. We like to look at pet nat wines, like the Uva Tosca-based Scarbato, and the pet nat Proseccos. Wines like Scarbato have pronounced aromas of cranberries, which help the intense and sour sensation. And pet nat Proseccos like Zanon's Col Fondo have distinct lime flavors that also tie in well with a sour concept. We have done tasting videos of these wines in the past, so I'll have them linked down below to learn more about their flavor profiles. All right. Next, let's look at sweet. Sweet seems pretty intuitive, right? Sugar equals sweet. And sure, sugar and glucose can have a lot to do with it. In a wine, sweet can come from the residual sugars, as we've talked about in our sweet wine videos. And sometimes overly ripe fruit flavors or extra glycerin can also give us a sweet sensation too. Of course, the most classic way to think about sweet in wine is with traditional sweet wines like Ivaldi's Moscato d'Asti and Brocchetto di Acqui. These slightly sparkling wines with lots of residual sugars have great juicy flavors that leaves us with a delicious sugary sweet wine. And now, salty. So here we're not really looking for a salty flavor, so to speak, like if you were to dip your finger in a salt well or lick a potato chip. This, in fact, will manifest in wine with something we call sapidity or a savoriness. This might come from sensations like a balsamic type flavor, for example, as we see in Aldo Clerico's Barolos, or maybe that strong sense of sapidity that we will get from Thaya's Czech Republic Riesling. Minerality is also a great way to think about saltiness in wines. Wines like Ojai Pacific View's Dolcetto that grow in super limestone soils, or Michi Lauren's Sauvignon Blanc that's filled with schist rocks, and wines like Durello that come from volcanic soil. They all can express a great minerality when it comes to a mineral or salty flavor in the wine. Bitterness is a unique sensation, like medicine or chewing on an artichoke leaf. In wine, while it can sometimes be perceived negatively, it actually adds a fascinating layer of complexity and is an important part of wine. Think of wines that carry an herbal edge that's reminiscent of walking through a vineyard alive with natural aromas. These are examples like Febo's Parrella with its distinct herbal profile, or even Febo's Montepulciano di Abruzzo, a red grape known for its robust tannins that can help enhance this characteristic. These wines are both made in a natural or minimal intervention style, which often helps showcase the inherent qualities of the grapes and their terroir, sometimes including a subtle bitterness that speaks to their herbal origins. Think like bringing forward the sensation of tasting the fields where the wines are grown. But beyond herbal notes, a different kind of bitterness can emerge, one akin to the pith or white part of a grapefruit. This is sometimes found in wines like Thaya's Sauvignon Blanc or those made with the Durella grape. In fact, Durella means hard grape for its assertive nature. This particular bitterness can provide a refreshing counterpoint to the wine's other characteristics that will add a crisp and slightly challenging edge to the finish. And of course, give it an extra boost of complexity. Last, let's look at umami. With umami, we want to search for a mushroomy or earthy, savory type element that can be found in some wines. Think like Zanon's Boschera Pet Nat that is bottled col fondo with the lees. This wine's winemaking process with the extended contact on its lees, the yeast sediment, can help us naturally develop some umami characteristics. With Boschera's savory character, it's detectable really only by tasting, and is a great example of umami in wine. If you want to practice recognizing the types of flavors in wine, I have got a great place for you to start. That is the Vero shop on verovino.com. There you can find a whole host of great wines where in the descriptions we talk about the tastes and flavors you will feel and experience while enjoying these wines, including all of the wines that I mentioned in this video. We can ship them to your door or you can contact us for wholesale pricing. While you are perusing the wines on verovino.com, you should also remember to subscribe to the Vero newsletter that I will have linked below. With that free subscription, you will get email updates whenever we release new articles, videos, and of course, new wines. So thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like below and be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and to the Vero newsletter to not miss any more great wine-related content. Now, you might remember that actual flavor is a mix of these tastes with something else, and I will leave you with this video to learn more. Bye!